to talk about how the ninth generation of gaming is the disappointing generation of gaming. Now, to most consumers, they're not going to realize that there's even a problem. Most people are going to be happy with their PS5 or Xbox Series X or whatever, and be happy to play games that are available, happy to essentially have it in their setup. But what I feel is a massive problem is that there is almost no exclusives this generation. It seems like everything is coming to every console. It seems like the AAA games are on everything, and there's really no exclusives. I think the last time I looked, PlayStation 5 had about 12 exclusive games. And that is not good enough. Like, yes, I understand we're getting a lot of AAAs and we're getting a lot of other things, but they're releasing at such a slow pace at this point that it feels like you're waiting years in between playing games. Like, you get a Horizon game, and then you have to wait years and years before the next major game comes out on the console. And people might say Elden Ring or whatever. Yes, we understand there are games that are coming out. We get that. What I'm talking about is Sony in the past prided themselves on release after release after release after release after release. Especially in the PS2 and PS3 generation. It felt like games were coming out on an almost weekly basis. And we've changed that out now for a obviously we have bigger games. So open world is a lot bigger. You also have revenues that are a lot higher, and companies try to get it right. But you see instances where games have all the potential to do great. And it's not just Sony games, or Xbox games, it's AAA games. And they have potential to have a huge market and a huge gamer base. But they mess it up right out of the gate. Like with No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk. Now, No Man's Sky, when that launched, we were promised all these features. And it was said, oh yeah, you'll have online, you'll be able to play with people online. And you'll be able to do this and this and this and this. And then you bought the original game, and there was none of that in the original game. Now, from what I hear, that's been patched, and now you can actually do a lot of these features that were promised in the initial pitch of it. But it lost me as a player. I bought the original game, and they lied to me, so I took it back and got a refund. And at this point, I probably won't buy it again, just because I don't know what I'm getting, and I don't trust that company anymore. The same can be said with something like Cyberpunk. Now, I never bought Cyberpunk, but I did see a lot of the glitches. And the fact that a essentially broken game was shipped, I don't want to even get into that. I don't want to buy that game. I don't want to support that company. And yes, they say Cyberpunk runs great now. Cyberpunk looks beautiful. Cyberpunk is where it needs to be. Cyberpunk is beautiful. But it lost me with the original release, because I don't trust that company anymore. And this is the thing, we need to be able to trust the companies that ship us games. And people might say, oh, but I don't care, as long as we have a beautiful game, now it runs well. It's like, cool, that's you, dude. But when someone puts out something like, where is it? I'm just going to get a few games over here. But when a company puts out something like the Definitive Edition, Rockstar, this came from Rockstar Games. And yes, you might say, oh, they outsourced it and they didn't have any say over this. It's like, you're telling me one of the biggest AAA companies in the world, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, period, couldn't oversee their own release of their classic titles? Like, come on. And this lost a lot of trust. Like, look, we got Red Dead Redemption 2, and we're waiting on GTA 6. But for years and years, the reliance has been remasters and GTA 5 online. That is where Rockstar's priorities have been. And to get this was a massive insult to people who were fans of these original 3 games, who were fans of the PS2. Now, luckily, I have the PS2 Classics. I downloaded those before they got pulled from the PlayStation Store. They are still on my PlayStation 4 and my PlayStation 5. So I can play the original PS2 Classics, or I can just pop my disc into my PS2 and play it that way. But the fact that this was released, and in the state it was in, where the graphics were kind of laughable, like, they basically ruined the reputation of these games and the iconicness of this game, and the iconic nature of what was the trilogy, the PS2 trilogy. But I still think we're going to get... I think they won't make the same mistake with GTA 6. But then you saw what happened after the Definitive Edition, where they went towards this reliance on, let's not remaster anything. And look, Red Dead Redemption, when it came across, I paid $70-something for that in Australian dollars. And people might say, why did you pay that much? And I was like, well, look, I just wanted to play it, but also, like, I kind of wanted to see if it was as bad as the Definitive Edition. And it wasn't. Look, essentially what they did with Red Dead Redemption was port it, and they didn't do anything. They gave it a bit of a little bit of a frame rate enhancement and a bit of this and a bit of that, it runs better. But essentially, they've done nothing to that game except remove online for some reason. I'm sure the servers, I mean, the PS3 servers still work from what I've heard, so I'm not sure why that couldn't be moved across, but who knows? At least we got Red Dead Redemption finally on PS4. But this is why backwards compatibility is needed, and why we need to be able to pop in a PS2 disc to play these games rather than rely on a company to remaster them. And yes, remasters is an over-reliance on remasters. I mean, here's a game that came out in 2020 that was just remastered. Can anyone tell me why a game from 2020 needed a remaster? And people might say, oh, it runs better on the PS5 now, it runs this and runs that and look prettier and this and that. You're telling me that a game from like a couple of years ago, they couldn't just delay it by 6 months to a year and put them both out side by side? You're telling me that they couldn't do that with The Last of Us? My idea is that they wanted to ship this one first to make you buy this one, and they always knew a remaster was coming. It's the same thing that happened with GTA 5, where GTA 5 released late in the PS3's life cycle, and then a remaster was always going to happen. It's just a matter of they knew they could double dip, and they knew they could essentially sell you the same game twice. So it begs the question, like, why do we trust these game companies when they're clearly misleading us or selling us products with the sole intent of revenue raising? And you might say, yeah, but that's the whole point of gaming. It's to make money. It's not to please the gamer. And yes, I get that. They need to make money. But they can make money if you put out a really good game. Like Skyrim, I've heard about. I have never played Skyrim. I've played The Elder Scrolls Online for a bit. I kind of liked that. It was alright when I first played that. But I never really got into Skyrim, and I need to go back and play it. I know I have to, but it seems like this thing that's everywhere now. It's like you have 14 different versions of it, and it's just like, can I just play the original? Can I just pop in a PS3 disc or something and just play it as it was intended? I don't want to see the PS5 version. And you might say, but PS5 looks beautiful, frame rates and graphics, and yeah, great. It's like, I just want to play it as it was intended. Can you just tell me how to play it as intended? The PS3 copy, or if I have to jump to Xbox land, I'm not the biggest Xbox gamer, but if I was to go out and buy an Xbox, can I play it as it was originally intended? Or will I have to play the not the PS4, the Xbox Series X version or the Xbox One X version? It's like, can I play it at like the 360 version of Skyrim if I was going to play it? That's what I want. I like to play the original game as it was originally intended. And people might disagree with that. People might say, but I want the newer graphics. That's you, dude. For me, I am a gamer that likes to play it as close to originally intended. That's why I keep something like Spider-Man around, because the character design in this one was completely changed for the PS5 remaster and for Spider-Man 2. They made it look more like Tom Holland. And I want to play games as they were originally intended, with the original intent and the original gameplay. I don't like to compromise too much on, okay, we can have prettier graphics, but I don't understand why there is a need to remaster everything, and why there is a need to change things when they remaster. You could essentially just give us a port, or you could essentially just give us backwards compatibility. But for a lot of reasons, backwards compatibility isn't a big priority for someone like Sony. And I get that. They're focusing on new games, and if you want backwards compatibility, you have to pay the subscription for PlayStation Plus, and they can give you 1 or 2 titles that they think you want, even though they can't give you the ones that you actually want. But this is why backwards compatibility is needed in the industry. Because it gives you a way to go back. Like, yeah, Xbox has backwards compatibility. Like, I'll give them that. They have a aspect of backwards compatibility. But I can't put in a video game that was released on the Xbox, like SmackDown or versus, I don't know if SmackDown vs. Raw was released, but like Raw, WWE Raw for the Xbox back in the day. I can't put that into the console and play it. Like, it doesn't offer that. Like, the old wrestling games aren't backwards compatible. What is it? They're not backwards compatible. So it's like, backwards compatibility isn't full backwards compatibility. And yes, you might say system on a chip costs too much, but I disagree. I say, hey, if you can do it through emulation, great. But hey, we're at this point now where it should be doable. You can get what? The new PS4 Pro that they keep mentioning that's coming out this year is what, 67 teraflops? You're telling me they can get that much power out of a PS5, but they can't figure out how to make a PS1 game run on it? Anyways, guys, I'm leaving it there. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll get back to you in the next one. Peace.